So I've got to ask, are you familiar with those cozy, minimalist, zen art studio tour videos? Well, I've got to warn you, it's not one of those because my style is a little closer to schizophrenic hoarder than anything else. So if you want to see an art studio that's a little bit out of the norm, come on in. All right, so walking into the studio, the first thing you're met with here on the right-hand side is this wall of movies, our physical media collection. Just basically getting ready for the apocalypse, the end of civilization, the end of streaming, and the end of the internet. We've got our bases covered for stuff to watch. And then over here, this built-in with the start of the collectibles collection here, which leads us up the stairs and into the main part of the studio, where we've got our first life-size prop replica here, the clown from Hell House LLC. More life-size prop replicas. Gremlins and Mogwais, one of my favorite movies. Got Twilight Zone masks across the top here. Then leads us into the start of the mask collection. We've got a bunch of customs on this one on the top and the bottom shelves there. The display case with the killer dolls, Glenn, Chucky, Tiffany, and Tommy, and then Talkie Tina from Twilight Zone, the doll that started it all, right there in the center. More masks down here. Jordu shell collection, and then the wall of masks up here, the majority of those being Trick or Treat Studios store-bought masks. There's a couple customs mixed in if you can catch those. More life-size props. Got NECA Gremlins on the wall here. Sam from Spirit Halloween over here. Another life-size prop replica, Annabelle from The Conjuring. Inside a case that was a flea market find. Got another Sam over here, Spirit Halloween animatronic. Life-size Michael Myers. That one's a custom mask. Still need to finish this off and dirty up the jumpsuit, bloody it up. I've got a piece to insert behind here too, so you don't have the mannequin head peeking through. Got a Coop print up there. A couple of skateboards. Death Wish Halloween and Twin Peaks. Alex Pardee top 70 baseball card set. I'm not into sports or sports cards, but I like Alex, so I had to grab those. Got some NECA heads on 3D sculpted and 3D printed stands there. Over here, we've got another flea market find. This early 1900 steamer trunk, which right now has Living Dead dolls in it. Eventually, I want to turn this into a prop replica of Toulon's trunk from Puppet Master and make 1-to-1 scale prop replicas of the puppets. Moving up then, we've got more Sam stuff here. 3 shelves of Trick or Treat, my favorite Halloween movie of all time. That's a must-watch every Halloween season. In the top shelf here, Nightmare Before Christmas, different collectibles, and some frame prints there of concept art by Tim Burton. Moving back down here then, one of my favorite pieces in the collection, Baby Yoda or Grogu from Sideshow Collectibles. Just love the sculpt on this, and the paint job is just fantastic. Super lifelike. I love this guy. Which then leads us into the start of what I call Maker's Row. And the reason for that name will become pretty apparent here in a second. So let's get started here at the bottom. So the first thing we've got is the Cricut Maker. I've used this in previous videos talking about making stickers. So I'll leave that video down in the description if you want to check that out. And then an older Canon Pixma printer down here. This has kind of been retired. I've got a newer printer, a larger format one that I use now. So this is mainly just for documents, taking to the CPA and stuff like that. Moving over then, we've got a portable AC unit. It's on wheels and just vents straight out that window there. So even though this is my studio, technically, first and foremost, it's originally a garage, so no AC, no heat. And then on top here, this big boy is the Glowforge Pro. This is a laser engraver. You can engrave on leather, wood, acrylics, metal, so many possibilities. I featured this in previous videos too, so if you want to check those out, I will link those down in the description as well. Let's keep moving on then. I've got more masks here from the Trick or Treat movie, the masks of the kids on the bus. And then continuing with the Maker's Row. The past few years, I've gotten big into 3D sculpting and 3D printing. So this is the start of the 3D printers. First one here is a filament printer. This is the Bamboo Lab X1C or the X1 Carbon. It's a filament printer, AMS unit on the top. So you've got 4 different filaments here. that you can do multicolor prints. It just basically switches the colors of the filament during the print process. Another filament accessory here. This is the Sunlu dryer for filament. So it does get humid out here, and this basically sucks all that moisture out of the filament rolls before you go to use them. Moving down then, we've got another 3D printer. So we've got filament down here. This one is a resin printer. This is a Uniformation GK2. With resin, once it's done printing, of course, you've got to wash it and cure it. So we've got the Uniformation wash station here, and then the UV cure station right here. Next up then, we've got the sewing machine. This is a Brother CS6000. And then the Ninja oven right here for baking clay, baking super sculpey. Of course, you can do that in a regular kitchen oven. It smells a little bit funky though, so that's why I like to have something separate and to keep it out here rather than doing it in the house. So moving back here then, we've got more 3D printing accessories. These are all empty spools of filament. You just add, replacement filament there when those are empty. So that's what those are waiting on. We've got more resin here. Moving up, a whole row of Pops, followed by a row of more Baby Yoda, Grogu, and Star Wars. Moving back here, TMNT Fugglers. We've got Boglins and Garbage Pail Kids plush on top here. This guy right here we'll talk about in a little bit. Moving down, we've got the cabinet for the cameras. Nightmare Before Christmas Hot Wheels on the outside there. I'll pop this open and turn the lights on. So the camera lineup, I've talked about this in the previous tour video. If you want to learn more, I go into a little bit more detail, but the main A camera, or what used to be the A camera, is the FX3. Been using this a little bit less lately. It's made by Sony, but I'll explain that more in the new camera that I'm using. The Sony A6600 and the Sony A6400. The vlogging camera from Sony, the ZV-1, and then all the different lenses back there. Once again, go into a little bit more detail with those in the previous video, so I'll link that down below too. And then just more camera accessories. On top of here, we've got the Neewer teleprompter. So you put your iPad in here, reflects the words of your script onto the screen there, and then you add the camera behind. It shoots through the glass. So you can be looking at the camera and reading your script at the same time. More Sam stuff up there. Wreath that my youngest daughter made me years ago. More Sam stuff. Along the top, we've got some vintage style half masks from Spirit Halloween. Moving down here then, we've got the Rhino Arc 2 slider. Attach the camera here and you get some nice buttery slider shots as it moves back and forth. You can either control it through the joysticks here and program it, or you can use the app. Moving down here to some more supplies, we've got a ton of filament there at the top from Bamboo Labs. Down here we've got wet clay. Another thing I've been getting into the past few years with all the masks is doing mask sculpting of my own, and that's the clay used for that. More mask making supplies, RD407 latex from Monster Makers, with more Monster Maker supplies down here, latex foam and some blood and some other stuff. Got some silicone rubber for mold making there and some epoxy at the bottom. The bin of random Fugglers and Where the Wild Things Are plush, which then brings us over to this side. So starting down here, the first thing we've got is Hydrocal for making molds of the masks. And that's all underneath the pool table here, which I talked about in the previous studio tour video. And the pool table we basically used as kind of a staging area where we would process shipments. And I thought, instead of wasting the space for that, why not build a massive DIY spray booth for all the painting that I've been doing and the airbrushing. So this is one of the newer additions to the studio since the last studio tour video. This I made out of PVC pipes, just join it together with the elbows there. You've got a frame going around the top and the bottom that's then sitting on top of these huge pieces of wood here. And then the outside of this is made of just acrylic that you would use for awnings over the top of a porch. And those are just drilled into the frame there after they're cut to size. So we've got the side walls, the back wall, and the ceiling there, along with the shop lights. And then along the back wall, we've got this filter here. I'll show you what that's for now. So when I'm airbrushing inside of this, there's a hole cut in the back, along with a scoop attached to a hose. That hose then runs along the door there, back up over top of the camera case, and back into this exhaust fan. So this, just turn this on when I'm airbrushing, this exhaust fan kicks on, it sucks all that paint then and the particles in the air into this, down the tube, and then back out, vented through that window. So one thing I've got to point out with that though, I just use it with airbrush paints. I don't use it with aerosol spray paints just because it's not safe from a fire hazard standpoint with the fan and the ball bearings that are in there. So keep that in mind. All right, so let's look at some of the other stuff inside the spray booth then. So the first thing, of course, I'm sure you noticed we've got 2 TV screens up here. So eventually the idea is I want to do some tutorials focusing on sculpting, on painting, and I want to be able to have multiple camera angles. And of course, with that, you want to make sure that you're actually in focus, in frame the entire time. So this is to monitor the cameras once I get everything up and running. I've got 2 monitors there, and then I can use another third one back here. And then I've got HDMI cables run from here, here, and here that go into those monitors and into the cameras so I can see all the different cameras at the same time, make sure everything is framed and ready to go. Over here then we've got more supplies, some paint brushes, got some acrylic paints here, some airbrush paints here, got some oven baked clay, some Super Sculpey, off-brand oven bake here, got some metal wires down here for metal armatures, more supplies back here. Underneath this is an in-progress mask on a full-size Ed head from Monster Makers. We've got the half Ed head back here, that armature, and then an in-progress 3D sculpt here of a ventriloquist dummy. Bonus points if you know who that is or what it's from. Leave a comment down below if you do. Over here then, more airbrush supplies. We've got FW inks at the top. These are in these acrylic shelves that I got off of Amazon that I just basically drilled through the walls, attached the nuts and the bolts. So FW inks there, some other various airbrush paints and supplies there. For painting masks, I use these Mabry Nightshades. It's liquid latex paint from Justin Mabry. And then more supplies down here. Got the pasta machine here to use with clay, basically helps you soften up clay and then mix colors together. Moving on down here then, we've got the airbrushes. So I've got 2. I use the Iwata Eclipse HPCS airbrush, and both of these then feed down into the Harbor Freight 2-gallon air compressor. It's got 2 valves, so these can both be hooked up at the same time. You can use them simultaneously, which is nice. Saves a lot of time cleaning the airbrushes. So if you're using 2 different colors, you can just swap back and forth between these as you paint, and you don't have to worry about cleaning them out every single time you switch to that other color. So it speeds up the process like you would not believe. More supplies there. Some Liquitex acrylic mediums, ultra matte and gloss medium. Other finishing products down here. We've got some Carbondo for finishing 3D sculpts, some Mod Podge, and some thinners. So that is it for the spray booth. Moving on down here then, we have the studio fridge. I guess I'll do, the obligatory cribs thing here. What's in your fridge? Not to disappoint, but it's waters and a pop. That's pretty much it. So with this, it's basically our overflow fridge. My wife cooks a ton for holidays, and when we have guests over, this is where all that extra food goes rather than taking up space in the kitchen fridge. More Twilight Zone stuff there, various stuff up top here. This is the Orange Monkey photo booth. This thing is awesome if you're taking product shots of your products and you don't want them to look like you took the photos in your kitchen or in your bedroom. This gives you professional level photos. It's got LEDs up top here. You've got the base here that spins. You can control that through the app with Bluetooth. Then there's also 2 extra lights that you can either stand out in front of here or that attach to the sides magnetically and just get really, really good quality photos for you. I'll go ahead and throw up a picture of this in action so you can see it all lit up. Got more masks down here on the fridge, half masks hanging up. More masks on the wall here. The Scooby-Doo collection from Trick or Treat Studios. Little Stitch puppet hanging on the mailbox here. A Shorty animatronic from Killer Clowns from Outer Space from Spirit Halloween. a tour poster for the podcast, the Haunted Objects podcast. That was limited edition, signed for their live show. Up here then, we've got a shelf of robots, some Rob Zombie artwork from the Firefly vinyl collection, Universal Monster hand puppets, and then this is the Epson P900, the printer that replaced the Canon that you saw earlier. And this thing is a beast. It's huge. You can do 17-inch by 22-inch borderless prints. This print, of course, has a border on it, but I want to get this one framed. It's a sand piece that I did. So I'm going to get that framed and put that up in the studio. But an absolute awesome printer. Expensive, and it sucks when you have to buy ink because it takes 10 different cartridges. The cartridges are 44 bucks a piece. So 440 bucks when you have to replace all of them at once. It hurts, but it is worth it. It's awesome. Another printer here, the Rollo label printer. It's a thermal printer, so no ink, wireless, Bluetooth. So you can actually just send stuff from your phone or from your computer. You don't have to be plugged into it. So when we have stuff to ship out, that comes in clutch. Love it. Cart here with just random storage options. You just got a bunch of cords, tools, bunch of art supplies. We got some clay in there, colored pencils, paint markers, and then just other random supply drawers here. Moving on then to this table here, which we'll talk more about later, but this has become kind of the go-to tutorial table lately with the new camera that I've got. So we'll get that set up in a second and show you what that looks like. Moving up here then, don't judge this too much. It's only got a few hours into it right now, but just a massive canvas that I've been working on, getting the lighting and the shadows and, you know, the values where I want them before I go in and start detailing too much. But eventually we'll get to that and finish that. Moving up here then, got a hot dog heater, the gas forced heater for the studio out here. Once again, like I said, no heat, no AC, so we had to put a heater out here. And then on top of that, we've got the bar up here is a retractable screen for a projector. So instead of having a TV on the wall taking up space, I can just hit the remote on this, bring down the screen, and then as I'm sitting over here at the desk working, I can just have stuff playing in the background. It's all fueled by the X-Jimmy Elfin Flip here projector that's on the monopod right here. This powered then by the Apple TV. Shoots against there, and like I say, I can just have stuff playing in the background as I work, and it doesn't take up any space for a TV on the wall, and I can have, you know, cool artwork on the wall instead. Got a Dyson fan here. We've got the Nest thermostat on the wall that controls that hot dog heater up top. And then another display shelf here, which we've got to talk about these two guys up top real quick. Those are Distortions Unlimited Monster Kids. And when you first get these, the outfit's not that great, just black felt shirts and pants that are hot glued at the seams. So I thought they deserve better than that. So we went ahead and went out and got them their own outfits. Become kind of a joke in the family because we're empty nesters. Our kids are grown and moved out of the house. So these are kind of our adopted kids. They've got extra sets of clothes too. These aren't the only ones. They've got Christmas pajamas. We dress them up for Christmas, bring them inside the house, put them next to the Christmas tree. Basically what I'm getting at is I probably have multiple undiagnosed mental conditions, but in my defense, there's no difference in this than what the ladies did in the 80s, which I guess is coming back now with the concrete geese and dressing those up for the seasons. Those are basically my concrete geese is what I'm getting at. So down here, we've got some Pop Marts. I love Pop Mart stuff so much. More Baby Yoda stuff. We've got Migos on the 3 shelves here, and then some Halloween stuff here, which leads us in to the action figure display here. So this was a cabinet with doors on it that I took the doors off and repainted everything, installed some lights. And now we have an action figure display. So the top shelf here, pretty much all NECA, pop culture, horror, and sci-fi. Moving down, we've got the Toonie Terrors horror collection. We've got Gremlins from NECA. We've got TMNT. The light is out on that one. Looks like it died. And then Disney Infinity down here at the bottom. So quite a few figures there. And more up here on the top, which we'll get to in a second. Another mask here. This is a paper mache mask from the first and oldest mask making company in the United States. Started in the late 1800s. I think this one's from the early 19 or mid 1900s. But very cool to have that as part of the collection. Shout out to Mr. Fisher for that. And then this is more action figures, my Ben Cooper Kids, the Trick or Treat Halloween Kids. I did a whole video about building this diorama, building this house from scratch. So if you want to check out that video, that's going to be linked down below too. Spoiler alert, those houses are a pain in the butt to build. So definitely check that out if you want to pull your hair out along with me. And then finally over here on this side, we've got more NECA. We've got the Universal Monsters collection and these really cool coffin shelves that I got out at Joann Fabrics, RIP Joann's. And then of course the 100K plaque for YouTube, which then brings us over into the center here, which is Command Central. This is the center part of the studio where I do all my digital work, do my editing, do all my business stuff. So let's take a look at all these pieces and learn what they do. Starting out here, we've got the 13-inch iPad Pro. It's an M4 model, 1 terabyte with a nano glass texture display on there. And then it's housed inside the Sketchboard Pro 2. So if you've watched my channel before, you know I'm a huge fan of the Sketchboard. I think it's a must-have for any artist using an iPad. And this is then attached with one of their newest accessories, the VESA mount here on the back, which I've done a video reviewing that and talking about that, attached to the desk arm here. So you can swing this, rotates freely, and then of course you can also adjust the incline too. So it comes in really handy if you're at a desk and you want multiple angles to draw at. Back here, we've got the Apple keyboard for the iPad with the D-brand skin. More drawing accessories here, the Pro Draw glove and the Pro Draw grip for Apple Pencil. Those are both creations by me and they're available for purchase on Amazon if you want to check those out. 2 other must-have accessories for digital artists. Here we've got the soundboard that controls everything coming in and out of the computer. So this is the Rodecaster Pro. This is the Gen 1 model. Never upgraded to the Gen 2 just because this thing works perfectly. So all the mics run into it, speakers run out, and then it runs into the computer, which is what we have next here. A little bit older of a computer, a 2021 MacBook Pro. It's a 14-inch, but it does kind of have higher specs. It's got the M1 Max chip, and then it also has 64 gigs of RAM. So it does everything I need it to do. I won't be upgrading anytime soon. 20 terabyte hard drive here. And then down here, we've got a tray with keyboard and mouse, both Apple, which I do have a secondary keyboard over here as well, so I can move back and forth between the positions there. Got a Google Home there to control the Nest and control the lights out here. Moving in then to the monitors, we've got a 32-inch LG here, 49-inch curved Samsung for the main monitor, and then this monitor here is actually a Wacom Cintiq. It's the Cintiq Pro 24, so pretty large size drawing tablet here. It's the non-touch version. This is basically where I do all my digital artwork that's not done on the iPad, but sometimes it's nice moving from a 13-inch screen to a 24-inch screen. So I'll use Photoshop, Premiere, for editing, use ZBrush, the Affinity Suite, Clip Studio. I use pretty much everything, but it makes it nice having a pretty large canvas there to work on. The other keyboard here. Talk about the mics. Got a Shure SM7B over here on the mic stand, and then another one over here on the arm. Then I also have another Rode mic up here. This one is the NTG8 boom mic. So this one I'll attach to the Sony FX3 when I have that mounted above the desk. And this is the mounting kit for that. It's the Manfrotto Magic Arm, which I've talked about this in my previous videos as well. So those will be linked below if you want to learn more about that. I won't go into super details right now. And then that leads us into the accessories down here. So this is the 3D Connection Space Mouse. This is the Enterprise Edition. And this is for sculpting in 3D programs. So using ZBrush, the center joystick here allows you to rotate and move your model in the 3D space. Then of course we've got tons of hotkeys around here. This display changes based on the app or program that you're using. So once you hop into ZBrush, this is all going to change. Move over to another program, you'll get a different readout here. So it makes it nice because you can have one hand drawing over here, one hand on this, and you don't even have to touch the keyboard. So it takes some getting used to, but once you get the hang of it, it makes sculpting so much nicer. And then over here, we've got another control center. This is a loop deck. Basically, program this with hotkeys. You can have everything here and here all programmed to your liking. And just like the 3D Connection mouse, once you change to a different app, this LCD display changes with the app that you're currently in. Since we're just on the desktop right now, that's the base desktop layout, but you can change all that. And then down here, instead of a trackpad, we have a Logitech mouse. This is the MX Master 3S, and I love this thing because of the scroll wheel here on the side. Plus, we've got programmable buttons here. So this speeds up editing a ton because those programmable buttons there, I've got those set to the selection tool and the cut tool in my editing programs, so I can just quickly switch tools just with a thumb press there. So super, super cool. Down here then, another Dyson fan, and we've got the Elgato Stream Deck pedal. So this is basically hotkeys for your feet. You've got 3 pedals here. The one on the left, if I hit that, it turns on these Elgato key lights up here. If I hit it again, it turns them off. And then the middle pedal here, I've got that set for undo, and the right for redo hotkeys. So if in any type of program that has an undo and redo option, those just with a step of your foot performs that action. Once again, you don't have to hit the keyboard. You don't have to use hotkeys over here. You can just act like you're a drummer and hit those. A couple days becomes second nature. And then finally, the speakers, the right and left here at the top, we've got the Gibson studio monitors. Those are hooked up then to the Rodecaster. So that's the main computer sound. And then I've also got a set of stereo HomePods here. So those I use when I'm streaming music or if I'm watching stuff on the screen there, streaming through the Apple TV. I find those just work a lot easier. And then last on the table here with this, we've got a MagSafe charger for the phone. I can just throw my phone on there and charge while I'm working. And then the controls for these are both standing desks. So they do have controls to bring those up and down. The problem here is I've got to make sure that I raise them and lower them at exactly the same time because we have a ton of different cords down here at the bottom and they're pretty tight. So I've got to raise them and lower them at the exact same time. Down here on this side is a mess of cords because I've got a USB-C hub down here that controls everything going into the computer. That's what keeps this all clean up top. A pair of AirPod Maxes there, and then storage down here, just random supplies, some camera accessories there, Rolo scale for weighing and shipping stuff, remotes, more camera supplies, square reader when we do in-person shows, and then a bunch of cords down at the bottom and more hard drives. And then down here at the bottom then we've got a 6-foot green screen. Next up, let's take a look at my computer chair, and this is the Razer Isker V2. So I've never been a big fan of the gaming chairs before. I don't do a lot of computer gaming, so they've never really seemed like something that I would need or want, but this one's a game changer just because the amount of desk space here, it takes up so much room, and having the multiple monitors, I'm constantly shifting my body between the different screens and rotating. And this one has a rotating centerpiece here. This lumbar here in the center moves and shifts as your body shifts. And it makes it so much more comfortable on your back as you're moving between the different monitors and twisting and moving your body. That moves with you, and I've had so much less back pain since I got this thing. So never thought I would like a gaming chair before, but I was proven wrong by the Razer Isker V2. Last but not least then is one of the newest additions to the recording setup, which is the Neewer camera truss that I got to go along with my new camera. So the new camera came about when I was searching for new wireless mics. I went ahead and found and bought the DJI Mic 2s, which then led me down a rabbit hole exploring the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. This thing had great reviews and the sample footage looked really good. And I was kind of looking for an easier filming solution. So to be honest, setting up a DSLR, miking it, dialing in the lights, the exposure, and all the settings is definitely a chore. And I kind of wanted to try and find something that was going to be quicker. And the Osmo Pocket 3 with the mics and this truss definitely fit the bill. I just have to set it on the desk when I'm ready to use it and then plug it into the power here. There's a USB-C power hub on top that powers all the accessories that are attached to the frame. So around here on the sides, I have 4 Aperture MC lights. And then that hub also provides power to the camera and to the iPad mini that serves as a monitor and controls the camera functions. And then the camera itself, that's attached with the magic arm there in the center. So no more running out of batteries on anything in the middle of filming. Every time I start filming, all the settings, they are all dialed in, ready to go because everything is in the exact same position as it was the previous time. And it's kind of crazy to think a $500 camera like this is capable of providing pretty close to the same quality of what I was using before. And it definitely has made recording so much easier and so much more enjoyable. All right, guys, that's it for today's studio tour video. As always, I appreciate you watching. Also, if you've got any questions about anything that was shown in today's video that maybe I didn't answer or cover, definitely leave your questions down in the comments below. I'll try to get those answered as soon as I can. Also, if you liked today's video too, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and hit that bell icon so you can get notified when I post new videos. Got a bunch of new stuff coming up for the channel, more making money with your art videos, more tutorials you don't want to miss out. As for me, I can be found online, bjdell.com, as well as on social media @bjdell. So until next time, keep creating.